Sometimes, the darkest moments lead to the most beautiful rescues. Linda Morrison was 19 years old, sitting in her college dorm room, ready to end her life. She'd written one final letter to the only person who'd ever made her feel understood, Elvis Presley. She never expected him to read it. She certainly never expected him to call her at 3 in the morning and spend the next hour talking her back from the edge. This is the story of how a stranger's compassion saved a life and changed two people forever. If you believe in the power of human compassion and reaching out when someone needs help most, this story will touch your heart. Please subscribe to our channel because we share true stories that remind us why caring for each other matters more than anything else. June 1977. Linda Morrison sat in her tiny dorm room at Memphis State University staring at a blank piece of paper. At 19 years old, she felt like her life was over before it had really begun. You know how sometimes everything seems to go wrong all at once? That's exactly what had happened to Linda. Her parents had disowned her when she dropped out of pre-med to study music. Her boyfriend had left her for someone else. Her few friends at college had drifted away, and the depression that had been lurking in the shadows since high school had finally consumed everything. Here's what made it worse. This was 1977, and people didn't talk about mental health the way we do today. Depression was seen as a weakness, something you should just snap out of. Linda felt completely alone with feelings she couldn't understand or control. But there was one voice that had always brought her comfort during her darkest moments, Elvis Presley. His music had been her lifeline through difficult times, and somehow, when she listened to songs like He Touched Me or How Great Thou Art, she felt less alone. On the evening of June 11th, Linda made a decision that would alter the course of two lives. She was going to write one last letter to Elvis. Not a typical fan letter asking for an autograph, but a goodbye letter. She needed someone to know her story, even if that someone was a stranger who would probably never read it. With tears streaming down her face, Linda poured her heart out onto paper. She told Elvis about her depression, her feelings of worthlessness, her belief that the world would be better without her. She thanked him for the years of music that had kept her going, and she apologized for bothering him with her problems.
"I know you get thousands of letters," she wrote, "but I needed someone to know that I tried. Your music has been the only light in my darkness, and I wanted to thank you before I say goodbye forever." She sealed the letter, walked to the campus post office, and mailed it to Graceland. Then she went back to her room to plan her final exit from a world that felt too painful to endure. 3 days later, on June 14th, that letter arrived at Graceland among hundreds of others. Joe Esposito, Elvis's longtime friend and assistant, was going through the Daily Mail when he opened Linda's envelope. Now, Joe had been reading Elvis's fan mail for years. He'd seen every kind of letter imaginable: marriage proposals, song requests, invitations to events. But when he read Linda's goodbye letter, his hands started shaking. This wasn't just fan mail. This was a cry for help from someone who was about to make a permanent decision based on temporary feelings. Joe immediately took the letter to Elvis, who was in his office dealing with his own struggles. The year 1977 had been difficult for Elvis too. Health problems, prescription drug issues, and a growing sense that his life was spiraling out of control. When Elvis read Linda's letter, something profound happened. Here was a young woman about the same age as his daughter Lisa Marie would be in a few years, who was so lost and hopeless that she saw death as her only option. "Joe," Elvis said quietly, "do we have a way to reach this girl?" "Her return address is on the envelope," Joe replied. "But Elvis, she's in a college dorm. It's probably too late to send a letter." Elvis looked at his watch. It was 2:45 a.m. "Then we're not sending a letter. Get me the number for Memphis State University. We're calling her right now." Joe stared at his boss. "Elvis, it's almost 3 in the morning. Joe, this girl is planning to die. Do you think she's sleeping?" Linda Morrison was sitting on her dorm room floor when the phone rang at 3:17 a.m. She almost didn't answer it. Who would be calling at this hour? But something made her pick up the receiver. "Linda, this is Elvis Presley. I got your letter, honey, and we need to talk." Linda's first thought was that someone was playing a cruel joke. "This isn't funny. Who is this really?" "Linda, I know this sounds impossible, but this really is Elvis. I'm calling from Graceland. I read your letter tonight, and I couldn't sleep knowing you're in pain. Can you talk to me for a few minutes?" Something in the voice, the gentleness, the distinctive accent, the genuine concern made Linda realize this wasn't a prank. You actually read my letter?" "Every word, sweetheart, every single word." What happened next was one of the most important conversations in both of their lives. Elvis, who'd been struggling with his own demons, found himself drawing on reserves of compassion and wisdom he didn't even know he possessed. "Linda, honey, I want you to listen to me very carefully. What you're feeling right now, this pain, this hopelessness, it's real and it's valid. But it's not permanent. I promise you, it's not permanent." Linda started crying. "But you don't understand. I've lost everything. My family, my friends, my future. There's nothing left." "Sweetheart, I understand more than you know. You think being famous means you can't feel pain? I've been where you are. I've felt that same darkness, that same feeling that nothing matters anymore." For the next hour, Elvis did something he rarely did. He opened up about his own struggles with depression, prescription medications, and the crushing weight of expectations. He told Linda about nights when he'd felt completely alone, despite being surrounded by people. "The difference between you and me," Elvis said, "is that I've learned something important. Those dark feelings, they come in waves, and just like ocean waves, they always recede. The key is holding on until the wave passes." Linda listened, amazed that this superstar was sharing such personal struggles with a complete stranger. "But how do you hold on when everything hurts?" "You find one thing, just one small thing, to live for today. Not tomorrow, not next week, just today. And then tomorrow, you find another small thing. Eventually, those small things add up to something bigger." As the conversation continued, Elvis helped Linda identify reasons to keep going. She mentioned that she'd always wanted to work with children, that music brought her joy, that she had a younger sister who looked up to her. "There you go," Elvis said. "Those children who need someone to care about them. They're counting on you, even though they don't know it yet. Your sister needs her big sister to show her how to be strong. And the music, honey. The world needs your voice, not your silence." Before the call ended, Elvis made Linda promise to call a counselor at the University Health Center first thing in the morning. He also gave her his personal phone number at Graceland. "If you ever feel that darkness coming back, you call me. Day or night, doesn't matter. You're not alone in this anymore." True to his word, Elvis didn't just make one call and forget about Linda. Over the next several months, he checked in with her regularly. Sometimes it was just a quick call to see how she was doing. Other times, they'd talk for an hour about life, music, and dreams for the future. Elvis also arranged for Linda to get professional counseling, paying for her therapy sessions himself. He sent her books about coping with depression, inspirational quotes, and occasionally handwritten notes of encouragement. But here's the most beautiful part. Elvis never made Linda feel like she owed him anything. He never mentioned their conversations to the media or used her story for publicity. It was simply one human being caring for another. With professional help and Elvis's ongoing support, Linda slowly began to heal. She transferred to a different school for a fresh start, began studying music therapy, and started volunteering with troubled teenagers. The depression didn't disappear overnight. Mental health doesn't work that way. But Linda learned coping strategies, built a support network, and most importantly, found purpose in helping others who were struggling with similar challenges. 6 months after that 3 a.m. phone call, Linda wrote another letter to Elvis. This one was very different from the first. "Dear Elvis," it began, "6 months ago, you saved my life with a phone call. But you did something even more important.
You gave me hope. Today, I want to tell you that I'm not just surviving. I'm living. I'm studying music therapy because I want to use music to help other people the way you helped me. She went on to describe her volunteer work, her improving relationships with family, and her growing sense of purpose. You taught me that our pain can become our purpose, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Elvis kept that letter in his desk drawer until the day he died. Linda's transformation had effects far beyond her own life. She became a passionate advocate for mental health awareness, particularly among young people. She used her experience to connect with teenagers who were struggling, often sharing the story of how a phone call from a caring stranger had saved her life. By the time Linda graduated with her master's degree in music therapy, she'd already helped dozens of young people work through their own dark moments. She always told them what Elvis had told her. Find one small thing to live for today, and tomorrow find another. For Elvis, helping Linda became one of the most meaningful experiences of his final year. Friends and family noticed a change in him after those conversations. He seemed more focused on what really mattered, more aware of the impact he could have on individual lives. You know what I learned from Linda? Elvis told Joe Esposito one day. Being famous doesn't mean anything if you can't use it to help people. That girl reminded me why God gave me this platform. In his final interviews, Elvis often talked about the importance of reaching out to people who were struggling. He never mentioned Linda by name, but those who knew the story understood what had inspired his passion for helping others. When Elvis died in August 1977, Linda was devastated. She'd lost not just her hero, but a friend who'd literally saved her life. At his funeral, she stood in the crowd of mourners, silently thanking the man who'd shown her that life was worth living. But Linda didn't let her grief consume her. Instead, she channeled it into her mission of helping others. She established a crisis intervention program called the 3 a.m. Project, inspired by that life-changing phone call. Today, the 3 a.m. Project has helped thousands of people in crisis. The program trains volunteers to be available 24/7 for people who are considering suicide, teaching them the same techniques Elvis instinctively used with Linda. Listening without judgment, offering hope, and helping people find immediate reasons to keep living. Linda, now in her 60s, still runs the program. In her office hangs a photo of Elvis with the caption, "He taught me that sometimes being a hero means staying up all night to talk someone back from the edge." This incredible story teaches us several important lessons. First, you never know when someone around you might be struggling with thoughts of suicide. Sometimes the person who seems fine on the outside is fighting the hardest battle on the inside. Second, it shows us the power of genuine human connection. Elvis could have had someone else handle the fan mail, or sent a form letter, or done nothing at all. Instead, he made the effort to reach out personally to someone in need. In our modern world, where social media can make us feel connected but actually leave us more isolated than ever, Linda and Elvis's story reminds us of the importance of real human connection. Sometimes a phone call, a text message, or even just asking, "Are you okay?" can literally save a life. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, please know that help is available. In the United States, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 988. You're not alone, and your life has value. Linda Morrison's story proves that sometimes our darkest moments can lead to our greatest purpose. The young woman who once felt worthless and alone went on to save hundreds of lives through her advocacy and crisis intervention work. And Elvis Presley, in his final year, discovered that true greatness isn't measured by album sales or concert attendance. It's measured by the lives you touch and the hope you give to others.